Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate Breakdown for September 22nd, Friday. It is one of the last slates of the year, at least of the regular season. Now, before we get into it, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to all our videos. Helps us a ton just to improve that reach that YouTube gives us and allow us to give more content out for free. All right, now what we're going to go over today is we'll start off by the perfect lineups and the winning lineups from yesterday, then get into projected ownership for pitchers and pitchers to consider, followed by the same for stacks. Now, let's get into the fun. And then also, just as a little bit of housekeeping stuff, I'm not sure if I'm going to do the videos next week. I am heavily considering ending my MLB play tonight. And with that, I just don't know if I really want to keep giving these videos out if I am not invested myself. But let me know. Let me know what you guys want. If everybody wants more shows, I'll do it. Just for the people. All right, so for the perfect lineup yesterday, we had Scooball, who went nuts, 10 Ks yesterday. Then Emmett Shaheen got it done. And after that, we have a little Met stack, but all one-offs. So interesting night on that aspect. And then the winning lineup, we, no surprise, had good old Scooball. Just dominated. I mean, he was extremely chalky, but you had to have him. He crushed. And then Garrett Cole also had a solid game. Then we have a 4-man pit stack, got it done, and a 2-man ATL. So nice little lineup there. Yeah, real nice little lineup there. Had some nice correlation. It is a little interesting that he took a catcher versus his pitcher. The catcher got him no points, and he was still able to win it. I probably would not have done that. However, I don't mind having one hitter versus my pitcher on a smaller slate. So I don't love it. It's not my preferred, but I do it every now and then. Probably very seldom, though. All right, and then on to FanDuel. All right, so we got Scooball, no surprise, a little Pirate stack, and that will do it. Used almost all the salary. And the winning lineup, we got Ace0519, got the 10K with a 4-man pit, a 3-man ATL, and a 1-off with Swanson. Got it done. First place, 10K. I thought it was just because it was a Thursday night game, but today's big slate is also only 10K, which obviously I'm very happy to win 10K, but that is part of the reason that I am considering ending my play, just because these prize pools are getting smaller and smaller. And I need to, get ready for NFL and NBA here. So let's dig into today's slate now and get over to the projected ownership. All right. So we got Pablo Lopez, highest owned, 10.7K, 42% owned. I mean, he should be the highest owned. He's going against this Angels lineup that just has been awful. And he's got some real nice K upside. Angels strike out almost 20%, 26%. His K rate's 28.5%, 26% combined K rate. So some real nice upside here. 2.1x value. And he's been pitching very well. StatCast data looks good. His FIP over his last 5, not quite as good. But this Angels lineup just does not scare me whatsoever. Next, we got Chris Sale. So seeing Chris Sale being chalky is big time hesitation to me. He is one of those pitchers that is super, super inconsistent. Now, this White Sox lineup is not good versus lefties, and they strike out a lot, and Sale has big time strikeout stuff. So I think the floor is there for him. He obviously has a big time ceiling, but his medium outcome is in the teens, and we really need one of those ceiling games at him, and I'm not 100% sure that we get it. I think I would rather just play Pablo Lopez at a little more ownership and a little higher salary than I would Chris Sale, due to the fact how inconsistent he is and his high ownership. Framber Valdez, 10.2K. I would also rather play him over Sale. Valdez is a beast. His medium score is pretty high. And he's just a solid pitcher all around. That K rate isn't quite there, but remember, this is a guy that regularly pitches into the 7th inning. So you're getting a full extra inning. So that K rate doesn't need to be as high as some of those other guys. And Kansas City does strike out 24% versus lefties. So he's in a decent spot here. I definitely like him. And I think he's fairly safe. And he does have a nice ceiling when he's on. So I like Framber. Brandon Pfaff next versus the Yankees. Unfortunately, we did get a bad umpire for him, or else I think this play would be looking pretty nice. The Yankees strike out a lot versus righties. They have a high ISO, but a very low WOBA, and I think he is kind of interesting. Now, the Yankees do probably hit a home run or two off of him. The big thing is here, will he be able to get the strikeouts to make it worth it and counteract that, the possible runs or likely runs that he's going to give up? The one thing I do have to say about Pfaff is that they're definitely limiting his pitch count, 79 pitches over the last 5. So his upside is severely limited because of that. And at 22% owned with a limited upside, I don't love it. To Taijuan Walker, he's fine. He's versus the Mets, who the Mets aren't that great. They do strike out at 23%. He's been very good versus the Mets. His FIP is a 3.92 over the last 5, even though that ERA looks really bad. He's also faced some solid offenses there. So I don't hold that against him. I think Walker is fine. Morton is getting absolutely no love, and I don't necessarily get it. He does have big-time strikeout stuff. The Nats don't strike out a ton, but they're not a very good offense. I'm intrigued at low ownership on Morton. Reagans, man, he has been unreal lately. That's really all you can say. Big-time strikeout stuff. FIP has been very low. StatCast data looks good. 27% combined K rate. The issue here is that Houston absolutely crushes lefties, and he's had, a tough last 2 outings. Now, the strikeouts that are there really just comes down to, is he able to limit runs against the Astros? It's a big question mark. He hasn't been able to do it in the past, but he is a very solid pitcher, and I think he's interesting at no ownership, just a bit risky. Ken Waldichuk is probably my sleeper that I'm going to be forcing into some lineups. Now, I think there is a nice ceiling at 7,100. He does have that, 20 plus capability. He can rack up some Ks when he's on. And that Detroit lineup just doesn't scare me that much. They are much better versus lefties, but I think that he can get to that lineup a little bit. So I am intrigued. Now, LineStar only has 1.4x and a 10-point fantasy projection. So, like I said, you got to force him in. But if I get a little bit, I will be totally fine with it, and I'm going to try and get a little bit. Manaea versus the Dodgers. Manaea is interesting because he does have some upside. However, the way the Giants have been using him is so hard to project how much you're going to get from him. Sawyer, Gibson, Long had a great outing versus those Angels that we love to pick on. He also crushed the White Sox. We also like to pick on, and now he gets Oakland, who versus righties is striking out 25%. I think he is absolutely interesting, and he's probably also somebody that I will try and force in my lineup, and will probably get more of him than I will Waldichuk. But I like both of those guys. Bryce Miller isn't a guy that I am on today. I am a little down on him today. However, he is going low owned, and he does have a nice ceiling. He is in a very tough matchup, and a matchup that has crushed him in the past. He has only faced them once, but got absolutely lit up. And you don't really know what you're going to get here, but it's at least intriguing. And that'll probably do it for us on the pitcher side on DraftKings. Let's get over to FanDuel. All right, so Pablo Lopez, almost 40% owned. Sale is next at 19%, and Valdez at 10%. I like Valdez much more than Sale. However, Sale has a real nice upside in this spot. I think Pablo Lopez is clearly the most interesting option as far as a pitcher, but you're with the field, so if you take him, make sure you're trying to get a little different stack-wise. Now, there's 11 games, so it shouldn't be too hard. Waldichuk is interesting, getting some ownership. Walker is interesting, and then Sawyer is interesting, and Reagan's. So, a lot of different ways to go on DraftKings that I'm interested in, and I don't feel like you have to go Pablo Lopez, although he is in a very good spot. And 10% on Valdez is very interesting. So, now, stack time. Do. My internet has been lagging a little bit today, so sorry about that, guys. All right. No surprise, Atlanta, highest ceiling versus Corbin. That is absolutely how it should be. All right. So, highest owned, we got the Red Sox versus Touki Toussaint, which I love Boston in this spot. Not surprised whatsoever. They are one of the highest owned teams, and I really do like that spot. Now, 77% owned is not that bad, especially on an 11-game slate. So I wouldn't fade them just because of ownership. And I think they are slightly interesting here. Twins are popping up a little bit. Davis Daniel hasn't been good. I think it makes some sense to go there. The Twins are one of those teams, though, that I don't like to go to when they're high owned. They let down a lot in that spot. And they are kind of interesting when they're lower owned. Just kind of my personal preference with them. All right. Projected stacks we're going to here. Atlanta, no surprise whatsoever. They look absolutely great versus Patrick Corbin. Just know that if you're going with them, you're going to have to pay down at pitcher, which likely means no Lopez or Valdez. But there are plenty of other options that I think are very interesting, and their Braves likely aren't getting the ownership they should be getting. So very interesting there. Arizona's popping up a little bit versus Luke Weaver. I like that. Luke Weaver is not good. 5.64 FIP over his last 5.8 over his last 20. Diamondbacks have been a little hot lately, winning a few in a row here, and they need to keep that going so to keep that wild card spot. So they are absolutely interesting. Now, from a value standpoint, we're going to see the Minnesota Twins pop up. We got the Giants popping up versus Caleb Ferguson. Ferguson likely isn't going to go deep into this game, so it's going to be a lot of the bullpen from the Dodgers, which we've seen their long relief not be that great this year. Orioles versus Bieber. I don't love it. Bieber is good at limiting runs, but they're a very, very good offense, so I like that. Royals versus Framber. Don't love picking on Framber. The Angels versus Lopez. The reason to consider this stack is all about leverage. Pablo Lopez is the highest owned pitcher on both slates. You will get major leverage if the Angels go off. It's a big if. I would say the outlook on that is not very high. But look, they're going absolutely unowned, and Lopez is going super high owned. So it's interesting to say the least. Arizona's popping up a little bit. We like them. And now let's go to ceiling. As we saw, the Braves are all over the ceiling. Houston also pops up on the ceiling a little bit versus Reagans, which I think is interesting because Reagans is very good. However, he just gave up 6 runs. He could do it again. And if you get into that bullpen, you could definitely cause some damage against the Royals. Now let's just click on teams here to see if we are missing anything else. Texas, second in implied runs versus Bryce Miller. They are going fairly low owned. I think Texas is very, very interesting. Boston, we talked about. Dodgers aren't being talked about. Sean Manaea can get lit up. Dodgers are a good offense. Twins, we talked about. Phillies have been hitting the ball very, very well lately. They are interesting. And then the Padres, got to bring them up. Hottest team in baseball, won 7 straight. They're hitting well right now, and they're facing a pitcher who walks a lot of batters, is allowing 36% hard contact, a high average exit velocity, and has a FIP of 5.56 over his last 5. So Padres going very, very low owned are very interesting as well. Houston has some intrigue. I do like Arizona. This Detroit and Oakland matchup, I think, is very interesting. Neither offenses are going to be owned, and both of them could go off. So it is a nice low-owned spot you could go. All right, guys, that will do it for us today. You all have a good one. Let me know in the comments if you want me to keep doing the show for next week. That'll be all. Good luck. Good luck this weekend. Adios.